I would like to introduce you to Raymond and Furugh Switzers. They are Canadian, but living in Hungary. That's how I know them, because I'm from Hungary too. Raymond is a psychologist and therapist, workshop leader and lecturer, giving amazing talks. And by the way, he's also an amazing musician. And Furugh is a sociologist, an intercultural educator. And together they work with couples. They are both imago relationship therapists. And they offered the second talk, which followed by the first one a couple of weeks ago, which was about family. And now we are moving closer into the secret or the key principles of healthy relationships. I already heard them several times and they are amazing. So I just would like to ask all of you to make sure to have a piece of paper and a pen to make your notes, to learn out of this and put into practice. And by the way, they have an amazing book called Mindful Matrimony, which is available online. So let me just give the words to Raymond and Furugh. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Oh, thank you for the very flattering introduction, Balaj. I hope we can live up to a little bit.
Sure you will.
And thanks for the invitation again. We are happy to be here with you all. So maybe we can share screen. What's that?
Aren't we sharing screen?
Yeah.
Host disabled participant.
Participant.
Okay. So
are you gonna enable?
I guess that's for later.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you can participate later.
All right. Let's see. Oh, it's still disabled.
Yeah. It's all right. It's for questions. He
No.
doesn't want them all on now right now.
No, it's for the PowerPoint.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're still disabled, Payam. And you're mute. We can't hear you.
We
I
can't
think
hear.
it should be all right now.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like it's coming.
Yes. Okay. All right.
You want just the main screen.
Yeah.
Okay, it's getting there.
Can you see, all of you?
All right.
Okay, good. It's just that we can see because of this. I can't move. Okay. Let's just go back. All right. So maybe I'll start with an introduction and then we'll take it from there. Our topic is some principles of a healthy relationship. There are many principles, but for today we have chosen a few and we'll share them with you and the implications of these principles in our behavior and in our daily lives. So Baha'u'llah says that God has established the law of marriage to become a fortress for well-being. So these relationships are beneficial for us. Actually, research shows that healthy relationships, especially intimate relationships, are conducive to better health, longer life, longevity, and even to material success. So even science is telling us that good, healthy relationships and marriages are a fortress for well-being.
And good for the children as well.
Mm-hmm.
Good results for children on several dimensions.
So let us begin with love, which is the foundation of everything in life. It's the power of attraction and love that keeps everything in our world, in our universe, in place. It is the power of attraction between the atoms in an object that makes that object be possible. And in the world of human beings, we talked about that we are social beings. We are connected to each other, all of us, and that we are, human beings are pair bonding creatures. So not only we are attracted to each other, and as a group, we are socially oriented, but definitely we are also attracted to one other. We want to be in pair relationship. And usually relationships, as we know it by now, usually often starts with attraction. This attraction can be to different degrees. It can be just maybe pleasing to each other, or it can be a very intense romantic love. We will not go into the dynamics of why we fall in love and why sometimes it is intense, sometimes it is not, and how our childhood is related to that. That's a whole different subject. But sufficient to say that usually relationship starts with some sort of attraction and maybe infatuation. However, this kind of love is not a real love. It's a kind of attraction that brings two people, attracts two people to each other. And it is usually, it has an expiry date. Usually maybe 3 months, maybe a year. Scientists have done research and they say maximum 3 years is the duration that a romantic love can last. Because a lot of it also is through hormonal effects on people, and there's a high level of intensity that actually human beings cannot function with that kind for a long time. And nature has it that soon after this attraction is there, we commit ourselves. Usually we get married, and then we start hitting the real life. There is finances to worry about, there is job to worry about, there is a home to be made, there are extended families to be dealt with, and many other challenges in life that will become real. And they all test the love. They all test this attraction between the wife and the husband. And more than anything else, the arrival of children will test this relationship. That is a huge challenge in itself. So to us, real love is when all these elements are there and we are able to go through challenges of life together and come out of it together and united. This is the real love. And in fact, this kind of love is more of an attitude and an action than just a feeling. In other words, going through these challenges of life together, struggling in life together, gives us the possibility of creating love, gives us the ability to create love. And that love is a conscious love, is a love that will last. It doesn't have expiry date. It's a love that we have created it consciously. So maybe a good example is that in the beginning, God gives us a free sample of love, of how it can taste and feel to be in love and attracted to each other. And that is free. We get a taste. We know what are the possibilities. Then he says, okay, if you want this, you have to work for it. You have to gain this kind of love through your own efforts and endeavor. And this is when the real love appears. Abdul Baha once gave a talk about marriage, and he said this. He said, lay the foundation of your affection in the very center of your spiritual being, at the very heart of your consciousness, and let it not be shaken by adverse winds. So there's an element of consciousness here. There's an element of creativity. There is an element of action. It is not a passive kind of love. It is a love that we put in the center of our spiritual being. We nourish it, we look after it, we make it better and better all the time. It's a conscious approach. So this is what we want to talk to you about today. This process of going from attraction to real love, which is lasting and it is always deepening if we are doing it right. What is this process? And what can we do to make this process a healthy process that will lead to deeper and more intense even love between the couple? So maybe you can.
So love is the first principle that Furugh introduced in a very lovely way. And the next we want to talk about is equality. Because we're talking about, I think we mentioned this last time, a new model of marriage has emerged. And it's a lot more challenging than the old traditional models, no matter what culture you were in. And one of the aspects which makes it very new and also very much more challenging is that now equality is an expectation. Equality between the partners.
It's a principle.
This is a principle. It's a place that we don't have really any choice but to acknowledge if we want to make it work well, if we want to create love. And in order to be equal in this relationship, we have to learn how to communicate. Communicating as equals is very different from the more layered kind of relationship which existed traditionally, where one person can make decisions, has more power, has more authority, and the other will be more or less expected to fall in line. When it's equals, you can't do it simply like that. It's in many ways a lot easier to have the simpler structure. But when we have two equals, we have to learn to relate to each other with a lot more finesse and understanding. We have to learn how to consult. So Baha'u'llah writes, "Take ye counsel together in all matters, inasmuch as consultation is the lamp of guidance which leadeth the way and is the bestower of understanding." Now, understanding is where we want to get to between husband and wife, these two different but equal players. We have to consult, we have to learn how to speak with respect. We're going to get around to respect a little bit later. It's a very important principle as well. We have to learn how to talk in a way which is respectful, without judgment. We talked about this last time. I'm not going to get into it a deep degree now. But this is essentially how to talk becomes important, and it's not necessarily what we're brought up with. And the other side, of course, so we need to be expressive. It's not an option just to be quiet. Some personalities are more or less comfortable not speaking up, but that's not an option. Now we have to find our voice. We have to have a voice and learn how to deliver in a way that is receivable. And the other side, of course, is we have to learn how to receive, how to listen, how to visit the other's world, which is a different world. So we're crossing a threshold into another reality as equals, and we have to get together and respect each other and decide things together and solve things together. Very challenging, not easy, but it helps us a lot. And it helps other aspects of our marital relationship, which are really important.
So the principle is equality, and the behavior implication of it in our daily life is communication and consultation. That's the skill we have to learn to do, the ability to consult and
Yes.
to communicate.
And Balazs had asked us also to visit the mistakes that we see couples making, the big mistakes. And a big mistake in this domain is not learning, not being open to shifting the way you're used to communicating, of really visiting, talking not to win an argument, not to convince the other of your position, but to understand the other and to be understood. And it's a new skill. We have to learn it. We usually come into marriage thinking, well, it's okay, we're married. That's what I've been looking for. I wanted it. But, you know, my parents didn't have to learn it. Of course, my parents didn't have this kind of marriage. That's the usual reality. So this generation, we have to learn it. Not an option.
Okay, the next principle we want to talk about is commitment and faithfulness. Now, of course, there are numerous different definitions for commitment, but what we would like to talk about here is to be committed to the boundaries of marriage. You know, when a man and a woman marry, they create something like a bubble around themselves. They create a new entity. It's like a new baby is created. And this new entity needs nourishing, needs attention, needs care. And the first thing we should pay attention to is the boundaries that occur as a result of a union. There are two kinds of boundaries here. One is the boundary between the two in a relationship. So it's a personal boundary, because there are two unique human beings involved who are entering a new entity, which is couplehood. And we need to honor the boundaries of individuals and the boundaries around the couplehood. We need to take care of that. What we can glean from the Baha'i writings, which Abdul Baha quotes from Quran, he says he had let loose the two seas that they meet each other. Between them is a barrier which they overpass not. Now, of course, people can interpret this barrier between the two differently, and perhaps later on in the comments section of this program, we are very happy to hear some of your understandings of this. But Raymond and I have two understanding of this so far. One is that there is this boundary of the relationship between human beings and their God. It's the spiritual life of an individual, which is very unique. And we are responsible for that individually. Each one of us is responsible for our spiritual relationship to God. We can help each other, of course, and we should. In marriage is a good place to help each other's spiritual enrichment, which we will see later. But at the end of the day, we are responsible for that.
As individuals.
As individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is the boundary of respect between the two. So here is a spiritual human being, is a creation of God, is a divine creation of God. And we need to respect that. We need to respect the soul that resides in our partner, which is from a divine source. So honoring the attitude, how we relate to each other, even and especially in times of difficulties and conflict, especially at that time, to mind our words, not to cross this boundary of respect between two human beings. The other one, the boundary of couplehood. Let me read this and then I'll talk about this. The greatest bond that will unite the hearts of man and wife is faithfulness and loyalty. Both must exercise toward each other the utmost faithfulness and loyalty, and not let any trace of jealousy creep between them. Now, in our society today, this is a huge challenge. We are unfortunately in a position to see this a lot. And this is why we talk about boundaries around couplehood in all that we find, because we see the damage that can occur as a result of not honoring the boundary around couplehood. Our world outside there has no boundary. So we are really, as a couple, living in a society that has no boundaries. They can relate to a married man or a married woman the same way as they would to a single man or a woman. So if we are to, we are the ones who should do that. It's the couple who has to take care of the boundary around couplehood, because nobody else out there is going to do that. And in fact, they are going to cross it. They are going to try to cross it. And if we are not awake to it, the most dedicated, the most devoted, the most religious, the most intelligent person will lose it, will be affected. So we want to tell all couples to prepare themselves, to be aware, to be awake to this danger out there. And how can we be awake to this danger? By being careful of our interactions with the people outside of marriage. If we start talking about our personal marital problems with a person outside of marriage, other than a therapist or a very, very trusted friend, we have crossed the boundary. If we start talking about our personal issues with a member of an opposite sex, a colleague, we have crossed the boundaries. It takes very little to start developing a relationship that is intimate with another person other than our spouse. It can happen very easily and innocently with no intention. However, we need to be awake to this. The place of sharing personal difficulties is not about our marriage, is not with another person. If we are the quantity, if we are talking and taking a lot of time with someone outside of marriage, and if this is not known to our spouse, we have crossed the boundary. Even if there's nothing sexual, if there's nothing romantic, but if you are chatting, for example, with someone on a daily basis, without your spouse knowing about this, we have crossed the boundaries. Anything that we hide from our partner. Anything that we think we don't really want them to see. Any language we use, we have crossed the boundaries. There are many other things to talk about this, but just in short, honoring the boundaries around couplehood and always carrying this aura of being married. Even if we are in the farthest place in the world from our partner, to have this aura that other people can pick up quickly that this person is committed to their partner. They are not available.
Okay, next. What do I press here?
Yeah.
So next, marriage is an intimate relationship, conceived of as an intimate relationship, at least the new model. It was in the past, in the various cultures, the older model was intimacy was an option that sometimes popped up. But the kind of closeness that we're talking about is quite new. We want to have a very close bond. We are called to have a close bond. I think we have a quotation here somewhere.
Down.
Down? Okay. The Lord, peerless is he, hath made woman and man to abide with each other in the closest companionship, and to be even as a single soul. Strive and to abide heart and soul with each other as two doves in the nest, for this is to be blessed in both worlds. So we are called to be close. We want to be close. There's something deep inside of us that yearns that deep connection. And this is healthy, to want this and to create it. And it's not done without consciousness, without learning, without having ways of connecting. Because the bonds that we're connecting with are physical, they're sexual, they're emotional, they're spiritual, they're every level of ourself. We want to be connected. And it takes care, it takes a lot of talking, sharing our worlds, being very open and very honest. So honesty is huge here. Be very, very truthful about ourselves as we talk, as we share our experience. Share our experience in the world. This is also helping to protect the boundary. Sharing our dreams. Sharing our troubles, sharing things that hurt us, that affect us, that frustrate us. All of it is important for our partner to know about. So we want to keep our partner informed about our lives, our inner and outer lives. To be very open and very, very honest. Here's a quotation on honesty. Truthfulness is the foundation of all the virtues of the world of humanity. Without truthfulness, progress and success in all the worlds of God are impossible for a soul. Spiritually, it's really huge. The most basic and foundational of all the virtues, apparently. So cultivating honesty marriage is a hugely important place to do it. We want to be able to take it into the world as well. But there are many things that as we cultivate it in this very precious bond we have with our partner, we can take into the world. And it helps us a lot. And as this quotation intimates is not just in this world, but all the spiritual worlds beyond this one. It's really important foundation. Okay. So what do? We resolve issues.
Brings us closer in intimacy.
Yes. This is maybe it's a surprise, but actually when there's a difference between husband and wife, it usually we receive it as a frustration, something we would like to change in the other, their behavior or something about them. Actually, it is growth trying to happen, or healing trying to happen, healings of our psyche. They're really important signals to us that there's something for us to work on. And if we can work on it, if we can work it through, whatever the difference is, we come out closer. We know the other better. We are received more wholly by the other, and we feel it. It strengthens the bond. It brings us closer in a much more profound way. And it affects all aspects of our relationship when we are able to do this. Here's words of Baha'u'llah. It is incumbent upon all the peoples of the world to reconcile their differences, and with perfect unity and peace, abide beneath the shadow of the tree of his care and loving kindness. This is a call, a spiritual call for us to be able to work through these differences. Now, this quotation is for everybody between all peoples. The world really needs this. And marriage, again, is a place where we can best develop the capacity to do this. Because there's something about otherness, about difference, which rubs us the wrong way. It somehow threatens our animal self. It brings up ire. It brings up, okay, who is this person? Why are they like that? We're taught to be a certain way in our culture. We are taught in our family to be a certain way, which is not the same as other people's family exactly teaches their children. And this is hard for our ego. It's a challenge to our ego, and it doesn't usually invite the higher self in. This is a call to move from our higher nature, to learn the lessons of difference, and to work through them. This can get it. We need words for this. We need to know how to communicate, getting back to some of the other skills that we've talked about. And feed this relationship, the closeness. Verbal and physical affection are a big help here. This gives our partner at a deep level a signal that they are cared for. We are also physical beings, and these signals are important to us. They help us feel confident that we are cared for. They help us to feel safe. That yearning for pair bonding is fulfilled, and it is reinforced over and over again, ideally by our actions, which are very affectionate towards each other. So this is the spiritual relationship and everlasting union. Likewise, in the physical world, they are bound together with strong and unbreakable ties, also from the Baha'i writings. This is signaling that it's a physical and a spiritual relationship, and there's a relationship between the physical and the spiritual. We lay the foundations a lot in physical ways, and it helps us to move into with our higher nature and develop more spiritual capacities. So marriage is full of opportunities for self-development and growing spiritually. But setting out specifically, conscientiously even, to show affection to our partner. And there's many, many ways we can do it. And we can do it daily and frequently.
Maybe we can make some, huh?
Okay. You want to have a demonstration? It's good. Hold your partner. Sit with your partner. Let your partner know you're there and you care. Language, body language tells a lot. It gives signals to our brain and to our being. So hugs and kisses and any kinds of loving gestures, caresses, holding hands when you're walking, all of these things are signals. We are together. We are one.
And it's good for your children to observe that. It's good for your children to observe these non-sexual affection between mom and dad, so that they learn that this is a healthy way of being together with your spouse. It's a special relationship here.
And this is really important because the bond that we have, husband and wife together, is really important for our children. If they feel that the channel of affection between their father and mother is alive and well, they relax, they feel safe. If there's something wrong, something not dealt with, issues that are kept below the surface, they feel it, first of all. Kids pick up on everything. They don't know what it is, but they are affected by it, and it's scary for them. And they'll do things, sometimes they'll misbehave just to bring attention away from the tension that's happening between mom and dad. These are the kinds of things that they'll start to manufacture, and it's affecting their being. So if this bond is secure, the bond we have with our children will be healthier as well. They can feel this safe attachment, which psychologists have studied for decades now. And the importance of this is huge. So again, working with your partner, doing the marriage right, has very important relevance, definitely to your immediate family, your children, but also ultimately to those around you, even to your community. A community and your circle of friends come to know you as husband and wife once you're married. It's this entity. This is a new element in their community. And they start to trust that. And again, if it starts to falter, and certainly if it starts to fail, it affects other people, especially people that are close to you. So,
some verbal affection.
okay, want some examples of verbal affection?
Yeah, because this is also very important for children as well. We can be affectionate verbally to our children as well as to our spouse. It's a good thing to learn, to look for the good.
Yes.
To develop an eye that will see and recognize the good in everything around us, in our life, in our environment, in our spouse, in our children, just to find the good and then to be able to express that. This will change lives really daily if we did this practice of every day finding something positive and good to say to each other, to appreciate about each other, and to receive that gracefully.
This is also exercising our higher self, our higher nature, being able to see the good. It's being awake to the other. We're seeing their spiritual side. We're seeing their soul. We're appreciating it, saying how much we value it. All of this, again, it lands with the other, helps to create a closer bond. And it's, again, a kind of language which is very good to pass on to our children. And for them to see is also a great comfort, for them to hear this.
So these are all steps or ways of creating love. Remember in the beginning, we talked about how to go from mere attraction to real love, to be consciously creating love in our lives. These are all simple steps, daily routine exercises we can take on to create this conscious love in our home, in our family, in our marriages.
And I say something here because I'm thinking still of this request. Okay, what do we see in couples that are the big mistakes? And here's a big mistake, is to take this for granted, that somehow there's a relationship and we don't have to feed it. Or if we're not feeling really close and affectionate or good with each other, not a big deal, I can live with it. It's not a good place to be. We learn to do that. Sometimes we learn it as children because we didn't have it. And so we learned, okay, I'm going to be self-sufficient. I'm going to not need what I could have from this person. We should listen to that part of ourselves which yearns to be cared for and notice if it's missing, bring it up. Find your voice. Find a good voice, a voice that can be heard, which isn't going to be threatening. This is getting back to how do we talk? But we should have that voice, and it's important to be heard as well. All of these things fit together.
Okay, we can go on, but time is an element here. Perhaps we can stop here. And if there are any questions or comments, we'll be very happy to hear from you.
Yeah, we're very glad to engage with your questions if you have them, and hear some of your thoughts and opinions
all
too.
Your beautiful faces.
Any question?
Yeah, I think there's some signaling here. People want to say.
Yes, I would like to ask. So thank you very much. It was very nice, and I would like to ask, what if some misunderstanding is happening in front of the child, and even after a lot of communication, things are still not smooth. And obviously, I know that we shouldn't do it in front of the kid or children, but what if, so how we could handle this situation best, or maybe you have some suggestions.
Yeah, it's a very good question, Petra. It's really important to work through. This is what we were saying, of course, to work through the difficulties, and it's not always successful, and it's not necessarily easily done. Definitely try, especially if you're not being very good at it, to do it not in front of the. If you're getting, especially if you fall into fights and it gets argumentative, or you start using bad words or loud voices or whatever, it all will affect your children, definitely. But also the outcome of the tension between you, as I've said, that will also be felt and affect the children in a negative way. So if you're doing your best and trying to work things through and you're not getting it, it's not working, you should get some help. Or study some materials. This is a model where we have to learn, and there's a lot of very good resources out there. There's all kinds of things online. You can watch YouTube talks, you can see demonstrations. There's, for people in our field working with couples, there's a huge convergence on how to make marriage work. What we're saying is not strange at all in the world of couplehood and people working with couples. So it's a good source now. It wasn't always there, but there's a lot of good stuff available. There's good books, and there's seminars you can attend, workshops you can attend. And there's therapists, and you can have therapy and get the help. It's not unusual. It's a smart thing to do if things aren't working between you and your partner. It's well worth it, whatever it takes to work through the differences.
Thank you so much. I was muted. Thank you.
Okay. You're very welcome. Other questions?
Yes,
There's
Balaj.
That's Balaj. Okay.
Although we don't see your face anymore because
Yeah.
it's dark there.
Kind of in the shadows there, Balaj.
Okay, that's better.
So I think it's also probably a good tip if you can give us about how often we should have this consultation, like sharing circle or whatever we call it, when the two partners are coming together and devoting that specific time frame, which could be whatever you suggest, for keeping this consultation healthy, and not just once a week, but maybe what is your opinion, suggestion for couples?
Definitely once a week, at least. Especially in the first years of marriage. At least you will have to have once a week time that just the two of you can talk. And I just wanted to add to what Raymond said to Petra about consultation about parenting is one area of consultation that couples need to devote ample amount of time. It is not enough once a week, 1 hour to talk about parenting. It's not enough, because almost every day things are happening, that decisions have to be made and strategies have to be made.
Mhm.
Things change, children evolve, they grow. We need to grow. We need to change our strategies. We need to evolve our parenting skills as children grow. Therefore, we need to be in touch and consulting all the time, really. Hours and hours. You need to talk. So when we become parents, this is the responsibility that comes with it. You know, it's not just to feed them and clothe them. The most important thing is how to bring them up. And if we are married, thank God we have another person here, because alone it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to make the right decisions all the time. But if we are open, this is really, really, I want to emphasize this. If we are open to hearing, to listen to the opinion of our partner and let that influence us. If we are stuck in our ways and we want to prove this is the way we need to do it because my parents did this, therefore we need to do this, then we will make the mistake. But the fact that we have a partner who is going to be different in many ways from us, that means we are going to moderate each other. Each of us comes into marriage with extremes. So the goodness of marriage is that it will moderate us. It will make the best out of us. And there's no other area that it can show better than in parenting, this moderation of two different extremes.
This is one of the reasons why there's generally much better outcomes for children when their parents have a good relationship, because they take the time to talk about the children, how to bring them up. It's a question, an everyday question, especially when the children are very young. And it's a very good question, and it takes time. You have it, and you have the benefit of two minds at work. And these two perspectives, when they're shared, they shed more light of possibility. And that's passed on, thankfully, to the children.
And if you make a wrong decision, let's say, but you are both united, the harm to the child is less than one of you having the righter decision than the other, and yet being conflictual in front of the child.
Or even in conflict, carrying it, in a quiet but frustrated way around with you. So unity is really, really important to the children. And so, but a little bit back to your question, Balaj, about how often, if you can do it regularly, that becomes in time. It takes time to get good at it, to learn how to talk and work through differences. As you learn to do it and get better at it and start more often to have a good result from it, and if you have it at a regular time and with a frequency, that's a comfort. If you have difficult moments, and you're bound to, if you're married, difficult moments with your partner during the week, and you've got this time in the week, let's say you're doing it once a week, you've got Thursday evening or whatever it is, okay, I can talk about this and we will work it through. You can have more confidence on that. It helps you to regulate yourself at the difficult moments, so you don't go too far, don't get into a deep hole with your partner the fight or extreme coldness to each other and so forth. So some regularity it signals safety actually to our inner psyche. It helps us to relax and to stay regulated.
Thank you very much. There is another question here. How can we make communication more effective if one party does not believe in change or seeking professional help?
That's tough.
Yeah. It's not unusual, unfortunately, but this is what we're telling single people when they're talking about, what kind of person should I look for in a marriage partner. This is one of the things we're telling them now. Find a partner who's open to getting help, who's not going to be stubborn and proud and thinking, no, this is not for me. It's not really a safe place to be. One thing you possibly can do is to get help yourself from a skilled therapist who works with couples, really knows what couples therapy is, and they may be able to help you get your reticent partner in. We've done that quite a bit ourselves. Finding something that you can do as an individual in the marriage to win the trust more and to gradually be able to encourage them and say, their help is needed, and you can break through the barriers. There's still a lot of that around. So
also, I think if it is really bad, if it is really affecting you, the children, and still your partner is not willing to change or do anything about it, I think here is where you can draw the boundary as well. You can say, this is not going to work, because we don't want to live the rest of our life in a parallel kind of life. We want to be married, we want to be communicating, we want to be consulting, we want to have joyful, delightful life together, especially if we have children. We want them to enjoy life. And so we either go help and do something about it, or it's not going to go. I think if we have a pain in our arm or in our neck or legs, what do? We don't let it go. We let it go for a long while, thinking that it may go away. But if it doesn't, we go get help. Our marriage and our family is less important than a toe or a finger that is hurting. Of course, I think we need to develop the culture. Even telling our children that, mom and dad are going to get help for our relationship. It is good for the children to learn that. It is good for them to learn that there's help. That we are going to this workshop, we are going to this seminar, we are going to this presentation about marriage. These are all ways of learning how to do it better. And it's good for children to observe that and to learn this culture, that marriage is something we need to work at and to improve all the time. Okay. Oh, I think someone, Maria,
Yes, exactly. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, because every time, it's the second time I'm meeting you, and I'm enjoyed very much so.
Thank you.
When I was married, we went to twice the course, marriage course,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing that we learned was that one day during the week we were having our time, meaning prepare food for without needed to go to the kitchen to prepare everything was ready, and TV off, radio off, telephone off, and prepare the table with silver and crystal, and chatting what happened to us during the week if there were any problem. Otherwise, we just enjoyed ourselves. It was wonderful. We were really happy about it, and it was helping us a lot.
Nice, nice.
Very nice. Yes.
Date nights. That's what we recommend to all couples. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very good suggestion.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, the people who are not, we can't see them, they can also ask questions. I don't know if they can send on chat or they can at least just talk.
I was asking you, when can we have you again next time?
Oh, I think you've had enough of us, I'm sure.
No,
There
not
are.
I just enjoyed speaking, listening to you, really, truly.
You're very kind, Maria.
Yeah.
There is another question.
Yes.
Do all these principles apply to every kind of relationship? Does a same-sex relationship different?
Okay, that's a tricky one. Let me give an opinion on this. It is somewhat based on, so far, what research is showing. Of course, one of the major purposes of marrying is having children. And outcomes for children, it has been studied. We've told you that happy marriages generally have good outcomes for children. Single parent situations generally much more troubled. And it's also the same with children brought up with same-sex parents. This is not what some of the activists, gay activists and so forth say, but this is what the research shows. Parents of the children of divorced parents, same thing. It compromises the result of children, which is one of the major things of being married in the first place.
But the principles are the same.
The principles are the same.
That was the question.
Yeah. The principles are the same. It's a little bit, we've talked about the differences and the differences being a challenge, but also adding to the richness of what we have as individuals in the relationship, and also what we pass on to our children as parents. So there's a little less, there's still polarity in same-sex couplehood. There's still somehow, if a man is marrying a man, that one of them will still have some difference, will be more feminine than the other, and so on and so forth. There's somehow polarity still arises in these relationships. And so there is some of this richness in passing on, because there's on some level we are attracted to somebody who's different from us. Of course, between it's very clear now also in the research. There are definite differences between men and women. So, but the principles, if you want to make the principles are the very same. Yes, this is, let's see.
Isabel,
Isabel, you can read from there. Very good.
I have my glasses.
Okay.
I wanted to say thank you so much. I was here the last time you gave the talk, and it's been really wonderful and very insightful. I'm not married, so for me, this is kind of like the second course I would have had to take. So I was wondering if you could come back and like give a talk about, you know, like single people. What should you look for? What is a good? How can you make sure that you are well coupled up with someone to then take the next step of marriage? Yeah, what are things that you have to develop before marriage? How do you know you're ready? All of these kinds of questions.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent questions. And we would be glad to do that for single people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Single people exclusively.
Thank you.
And maybe single people can be interactive and they can also talk and get to know each other as well from around the world.
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I exhausted all the questions, and is it time to close? Balazs?
Well, thank you so much for everyone, and especially for Furugh and Raymond. Thank you so much for accepting second time for your amazing talk. I've heard you so many times. I mean, not so many times, a few times, but I would love to just keep on listening to you for reminding myself how I can be a better husband and father. So I look forward to seeing you very soon. And thank you so much for everyone who came. This will be on YouTube under Payam's name. Payam will tell, or I don't know which YouTube channel it is now. Maybe Payam, you could share it with others. And we will continue our journey on every Saturday with many, many more interesting talks in different topics. Payam will share with us what is the next one.
Okay. Well, it was a joy to be with you on the same screen. And thanks for your comments and questions, and all the best to all of you with your relationships.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.